Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. It's great to have you joining us again. Today, we're really going back right to the beginnings of the human story as it's told in, well, one of the most influential texts ever. We're diving into excerpts from Genesis 4 using the 21st century King James Version, specifically the story of Cain and Abel. Our mission really for you is to unpack this pivotal narrative, line by line. We want to pull out those timeless insights about human nature, choice, consequence, and even how civilization itself gets started in this account. And hey, if you find these deep dives valuable, maybe take a second to like, share, or subscribe to the Peace Project for All channel. It really helps us continue these conversations.
Yeah, it's such a potent chapter. And what's fascinating, I think, is that it's not just an old story. It's foundational. It's shaped so much of how we think about justice, morality, our own, darker impulses for literally thousands of years. Its historical impact, its themes, they're just incredibly rich for this kind of exploration. It speaks to something deeply human.
Couldn't agree more. So let's start right at the beginning. Adam and Eve, they've obviously been through a lot, and now they have their first children. Cain is the firstborn. And Eve says something really striking. I have gotten a man from the Lord.
Yeah. There's this immediate sense of maybe divine involvement, or at least her perception of it. Even after everything, she sees God's hand in this new life.
Right. And then, right away, we get their jobs. Abel, a keeper of sheep, and Cain, a tiller of the ground.
These aren't just like random details, are they? It paints a picture of society just starting out, early specialization.
Exactly. One managing livestock, the other working the soil. And this difference becomes, well, pretty crucial almost immediately.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because then we get to the offerings. The text says, in process of time, Cain brings of the fruit of the ground. Abel brings of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. So the best parts, it seems.
Okay, and here's the big question the text throws at us. God accepts Abel's offering, but not Cain's. Why?
Right. The text doesn't explicitly spell it out. No checklist. Which forces you, the reader, to think, well, what's the difference? Maybe it wasn't just what they brought.
So perhaps something about their attitude, their heart.
Exactly. It strongly implies that the intention behind the offering, the state of the giver's heart, is what mattered to God here. It's a very early lesson about genuine worship versus just going through the motions.
That's a deep point right there at the start. And Cain's reaction, it's immediate and intense. He was very wroth, super angry, and his countenance fell.
You can just picture it. The anger, the resentment, the hurt, maybe, it's all there.
And what's fascinating is God doesn't just let him stew. He engages directly, asks him straight up, why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen?
Yeah, it's not a distant God, it's a direct confrontation, almost like a well-concerned parent trying to understand.
And this leads into those critical verses, 6 and 7. God gives him a path, right?
Yeah, he does. It's a conditional statement. If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted. Basically saying, look, acceptance is still possible. Just do what's right.
But then comes the warning.
And it's powerful imagery. And if thou didst not well, sin lieth at the door. Sin is personified, like something waiting to pounce.
Almost like a wild animal.
Exactly. And unto thee shall be his desire. Sin wants to control you, but, and this is crucial, and thou shalt rule over him.
So there's the element of choice. Responsibility.
Absolutely. Sin desires you, but you can master it. It puts the responsibility squarely on Cain. It implies free will, the power to choose a different path. It makes you think, doesn't it? How do you deal with those impulses, that temptation that sort of lies at the door? Can you rule over it?
It's a challenge that resonates even today. But tragically, Cain doesn't heed the warning. He doesn't rule over it.
No, he doesn't. The unchecked anger leads directly to violence. And Cain talked with Abel, his brother. It seems almost casual, doesn't it?
Deceptively so. And it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him.
Just like that, the first murder. It's stark, abrupt, chilling.
And the fallout is immediate. God asks Cain, where is Abel thy brother?
And Cain's response? Infamous. I know not. Am I my brother's keeper?
That question just hangs in the air, doesn't it? Such defiance, such a rejection of responsibility.
It really is. And God's response is powerful too. He doesn't just say, yes, you are. He says, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground.
Wow. Like the earth itself is crying out for justice.
Exactly. It elevates the crime beyond just a family dispute. It's a violation against a cosmic order, against creation itself. The ground itself is witness.
And then the curse. It's specific, isn't it?
Very specific. And now art thou cursed from the earth. The very thing he worked, the ground, now rejects him because it hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood.
So his procession is directly impacted.
Directly. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. His connection to the earth is severed. And more than that. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be on the earth.
Perpetual wandering. No rest, no roots.
A complete uprooting, socially, geographically, existentially. He's cut off.
Cain's reaction to this.
Yeah.
He seems overwhelmed. My punishment is greater than I can bear.
Yeah, he recognizes the severity. He understands he's being driven out, hidden from God's face, destined to wander. And he adds a practical fear. Everyone who findeth me shall slay me.
He expects retribution. Understandable, really.
It is, but then God's response is, well, unexpected, paradoxical almost.
How so?
He says, therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And he puts a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him.
Wait, so God protects the first murderer. Why?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's fascinating. It could be about preventing endless cycles of blood feuds, establishing that vengeance belongs to God, perhaps. Or maybe preserving even Cain's life serves some divine purpose we don't fully grasp.
So it's not just about punishment, but maybe about limiting further violence.
Possibly. It suggests divine justice is more complex than simple tit for tat. There's mercy, or at least a limitation on retribution woven in there, even for Cain. It's a really complex moment.
And with that strange protection, Cain leaves. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod to the east of Eden, off into exile.
Into the land of wandering, essentially. That's what Nod implies.
Okay, but the story of Cain's line doesn't just end there in misery, right? It takes another surprising turn.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Despite the curse, Cain finds a wife, has a son named Enoch, and then what does he do? He builds a city.
The first city mentioned, built by the exiled murderer. That's ironic.
Deeply ironic. And the lineage continues. Irad, Mehujael, Methushael, Lamech. And through this line, we see the beginnings of, well, civilization as we know it.
Right, the text mentions specific innovations.
Remarkable ones. Lamech's son Jabal is called the father of those who dwell in tents and of those who have cattle. So pastoralism, organized herding.
Okay.
His brother, Jubal, is the father of all those who handle the harp and organ, music, the arts.
Wow.
And then Tubal-Cain, another descendant, is an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron, metallurgy, technology, tool-making.
So city building, nomadic herding, music, metalworking. These fundamental building blocks of society emerge from Cain's lines.
Isn't that something?
Yep.
It suggests that human ingenuity, our drive to create and build, is powerful. It can flourish even from flawed beginnings, even in a lineage marked by this foundational sin.
It's like progress and transgression are intertwined somehow.
It certainly seems that way in this narrative. Human potential is there, but so is the shadow of Cain's act.
And that shadow gets darker, doesn't it? With Lamech himself. He makes this chilling boast to his wives.
Oh, yes. Verses 23 and 24, he says, I have slain a man for my wounding and a young man for my hurt. He admits to killing seemingly over minor offenses.
But it's the next line that's really shocking.
Right. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold.
77-fold. What does that tell us?
It's a terrifying escalation of violence and vengeance. God offered Cain sevenfold protection from vengeance. Lamech boasts he will exact 77-fold vengeance himself.
So it's like human pride twisting divine mercy into a justification for extreme retribution.
Exactly. Within just a few generations, the violence has multiplied exponentially. It's a stark warning about where unchecked anger and pride can lead, a downward spiral.
A really grim picture of that lineage. But then the narrative pivots again, doesn't it? Back to Adam and Eve.
Yes, there's a shift, a sense of renewal. Eve has another son, Seth, and she says, For God hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew.
There's hope in that. A replacement, a new beginning offered by God.
Definitely. Seth represents a different path, and his line continues with Enoch. But the final line of the chapter, verse 26, is incredibly significant.
What does it say?
Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord.
Ah. So after Cain's line built cities and tools, but ended in boasts of vengeance, Seth's line initiates something else.
It seems so. A conscious turning towards God. A beginning, or maybe a renewal, of communal worship and relationship with the divine. It offers a contrast to the path of Cain's descendants.
Two paths emerging early on, one focused on earthly building and escalating violence, the other turning towards spiritual connection.
Precisely. It sets up a fundamental tension explored throughout the rest of Genesis and beyond.
So let's try and wrap this up. what does this whole chapter, Genesis 4, really mean for you, our listeners, today?
Well, we've journeyed through so much, haven't we? Sibling rivalry turning deadly, the nature of sin, judgment, that surprising mercy shown to Cain.
The roots of civilization springing from a cursed line, the terrifying escalation of violence.
But also that thread of hope with Seth and the return to calling on God.
It shows how one act, driven by anger and jealousy, can just ripple outwards, affecting generations.
It really does. And it forces us to think about our own choices, right? Accountability. That balance between justice and compassion that God models, however mysteriously.
Yeah, how do our actions impact others? What legacy are we building?
It's all in there. These ancient questions about our nature, our capacity for both good and terrible evil, were being grappled with right from the start.
So here's something to mull over as you go about your day. Where do you see the echoes of Cain and Abel playing out now? That struggle with envy, the choice between doing well or letting sin lie at the door.
Yeah, the way we build our societies, the innovations, but also the conflicts, and that deep human longing for connection, for meaning, maybe for calling on something greater than ourselves.
It's all still so relevant. This ancient story holds up a pretty clear mirror.
Okay, well, that's our deep dive into Genesis 4 for today. We really hope you got some valuable insights, maybe some things to think about. It was great digging into this foundational text.
Absolutely. Hey, let us know your thoughts. Maybe drop your favorite verse, perhaps from this discussion, or a previous one, in the comments below. We genuinely enjoy seeing what resonates with you all. A huge thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive. We appreciate you spending your time with us. Take care, and we'll see you again for the next one.